welcome back to Story Magic, the podcast that will help you write a book you're damn proud of.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Emily.
And today we are talking about writing process, the individualness, the individuality, process itself, with some very special guests. We have Carissa DeLay and Jamie Vendera on the podcast today. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Of course. You both are the hosts of the Always Right podcast, which we love, and we have been guests on earlier this year, which is amazing. So we're very thankful to have you on with us today. Before we dive into process, would you tell us about yourself, your writing journey, your books, and a little bit about the podcast? And let's have Carissa. Would you want to go first?
Sure, I guess. So my name's Carissa DeLay. I'm an author with Vendera Publishing. I have 2 fiction novels, 1 nonfiction novel, and I'm working on a 4th book. And I also am one of the hosts of the Always Right podcast, where we talk about everything writing, editing, process, kind of the same idea as you ladies. Definitely laid back like you girls, but it's kind of like 2 different types of author personalities that come together and share our ideas and all that stuff.
Awesome. Jamie.
I kind of became an author by mistake. It really wasn't what I wanted to do. I love writing, but I just, I'm a vocal coach, and there really wasn't a lot out there at the time. And so I started writing my first book in 2000. Took about 4 years. Couldn't find a publishing company interested in taking me on. So I said, well, I'll just do it myself.
Love that.
And I thought that would be the end of it. And then it exploded. And I've written dozens of books on nonfiction, but then I also love fiction. So 2008, I started writing fiction novels in horror, fantasy, YA, fantasy, spy, a bunch of different genres. And it just kind of grew from there.
Oh, I love that. So that actually gives me a really good segue, because writing, you said you fell into it by accident, Jamie. So when you first started writing to how you write now, do you find there's difference in your process, or maybe there's not, but what's it been like to I think I'm going to do this, to then now you've written dozens of books?
Oh, no, it definitely has improved. I'm sporadic, and I don't have a tight process. In the beginning, I was so analytical, and I thought I had to write 10 hours a day, and I was writing everything by hand. And then I had to transfer to a computer, and I was using Microsoft Word at the time. Big mistake, because I remember one day I literally wrote 14 hours and did not have autosave on. I didn't even know about it.
Oh.
I don't know what happened, went out, lost everything.
Oh,
And to me, it was like losing an entire novel. So I'm sure it wasn't that much. But it, like I said, it took 4 years. So it was a lot of hit and miss, and getting over those hurdles of getting consistent and learning something a little more about grammar until I could better place it so that when we send it to our editor, he doesn't have to go through a lot of garbage. At the beginning, I'm sure he had a lot of strokes working with me, but the process has got better. So I have grown, and I'm sure she's on the opposite end. I'm just sporadic. I wake up, write whatever comes on my mind. Don't worry about the typos, and I fix it later.
Chris,
That
opposite.
was how I was. Yeah, we're opposites now. So we're absolutely yin and yang when it comes to most things. But that's what works with Jamie and I, is that balance. But for me, in the very beginning, I was more of that structured but flexible routine with my writing. So I've significantly evolved since then to more of a chaotic burst, but trying to be more more of a perfectionist. Whereas I wasn't very good with grammar in the beginning as well. So I was just writing on the fly, just putting it down there. And the more feedback I got from my editor about how to do things more, cohesive, I feel like mentally that has blocked me from being as free flowing.
Mm-hmm.
I've almost become more of the opposite. I've become more, I guess I use the word chaos, but that's how I am. I'm like, oh, I can write, but I have to make sure that when I'm writing, it's more concise, versus before when I was just throwing stuff on the page just to get the thoughts out and the imagery. I didn't care how it flowed. It was just on there. I just can't get back in that mindset.
Mm.
Yeah, I've never left that mindset. We have the same editor, and I love Rich. I think I told you ladies a story. So I was writing like a book about a mermaid, and then a book about living in space and all this, and it was all me. And we used all these different pen names. And I remember my partner had left. He just got too busy with interior design, and I told Rich Dalglish, our editor, I said, "Well, I know the cat's out of the bag. I know I write all this. I mean, come on." And he's like, "Wait, what? You're Jamie Lynn Sanders and you're this one and that one? What? There is no way." He said, "When you take on a different novel, it's like you're a completely different writer." And I learned a lot of it from him, but it's small things. I mean, goofy little things I remember, like there was blue, red, and black, blue, comma, red, comma, and black, or instead of I'm. So I pick up those little things from him, but I still let it flow. And then I'll go back and fix my typos. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm paying Rich anyway. He can fix this. So
I love that. So it feels like both of you embrace your own brand of chaos to get it just down on the page. And then
I'm trying to keep less work for Rich. Jamie's just adding more.
Jamie's
yeah,
who
I'm like,
cares?
I'm paying him anyway. He can deal with it.
Yeah.
So I'm so curious, like, what does your process look like kind of from when you have the idea to like the finished product, or when you send it to this editor? Like, do you do a lot of passes? Do you do like story level edits? Do you just like get it out and send it? Like, how does it work for you? And like, what does that timeline look like?
Jamie, I'll let you go first since, yours is.
Yeah, I still do get it ready for him. If it's a nonfiction book, since I've done a lot of workshops around the world, a lot of vocal workshops and performance workshops, any nonfiction book I do make bullet points, and I think of them as if I'm going to get up in front of 100 people and teach something, what will be the order, the process, and to those become my chapters, and then I have sub bullet points under them, and then after I got the skeleton, then I build the meat. As far as fiction goes, I have to do several passes because I'll take notes to make sure I don't mess up, like a character has green eyes in one scene and blue eyes in the next. So I try to check all that. So he's caught that stuff before, and that's one of the things I learned from him. But I don't have a process for that because for me, it's like I turn on Netflix and the hottest show on Netflix right now. Oh, I haven't seen it. What's it about? What's the next episode going to be? I don't plot it out. I just let it come to me like I'm watching a show, and I let my mind
Mm.
unfold it. But then
He's definitely a pantser.
yeah, but I definitely have to go back with that approach. So nonfiction and fiction are two different writers for me. I mean, one is very analytical. It's process. Rich won't have as much problems with it. The fiction, yeah, I have to go through it 3 or 4 times to make sure that everything's pretty cohesive.
Right. Krista, what about you?
So for me, with fiction writing, so I can envision the goal line, and I will plot out the order in my head how I want the storylines to go. Now, when I wrote my second fiction book, I actually wrote them down, like, this is where I want this to happen. This is where I want this to happen. It's almost like each chapter I gave it a brief sentence or two to say where I'm at with the storyline. And then I could rearrange and fill things in, like, oh no, I need this to happen before this. It's the same idea in my head, like, oh, I need this to happen before that. It's almost like I use the term murder board a lot, where you want to have all the pieces connecting, but sometimes you got to sprinkle those in spots. So I have it laid out that way, but when it comes to actually writing, I have to write in order. I cannot write chapter 1, chapter 20. I have to do it all in order. And if there is a timeline between when I'm writing where I'm not writing, I have to go back and start from the beginning. I cannot like pick up where I left off. I have to just go back, reread. Now, a day, 2 days, that's different because it's still fresh, but I want to make sure I'm, 1, not repeating words. 2, I'm also not over describing something I've already previously described, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, definitely.
See,
Emily and
that's
I were just talking about this because we were sick, as we were telling you, we took a large break off from writing, and we recorded a podcast. It will be out by the time this one comes out, but about like getting back into your story, and
Mhm.
we even had like different ways of trying to get back into it, because I feel the same way, Carissa, where I feel like I have to reread everything and like get back into the zone and whatever that looks like. But even that feels different, because Emily was a little bit like, that wouldn't really work for her because of perfectionism issues or just
Yeah.
other like
Mhm.
needed a different way to do it, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would
see,
entice me to revise.
Yeah.
that's crazy because I same thing, I gotta reread it, but I may be like, when you go on Facebook and you're, like, watching Walking Dead or something, and someone's like, "Spoiler alert," and then you learn something, you're like, "God, I haven't got to that part." I'm not that way, I'm excited about it, but I'll be writing, and then it'll be like, "Ooh, I thought of something," but it's in the future, it's like 3 or 4 chapters ahead,
Yeah.
so I have to jump ahead, and I write all of it out, and then I come back.
Mm.
But that does make it harder for me because then I have to reread a lot to make sure that I make sure I glue it together correctly.
Well, I
Yeah.
keep I keep notes for those kind of things. I keep a side note where it's
Yeah.
like hidden mysteries or cryptic messages or different things about that maybe my reader has to figure out on their own. I will keep a side note for those kind of things, and that way I don't forget them. But also, so I remember to put them somewhere in the book if I have to go back and be like, oh yeah, make sure you put that in there.
Oh,
Yeah.
speaking of forgetting things, Carissa,
Oh no,
yeah, I forgot about your sentence that you need, but I'm on it this week.
here we are.
It had to do with
Baby.
the little musical piece, and I'm like, as soon as you said, I was like, "No, I don't,"
Sorry, ladies.
and I have no
Oh
excuse.
gosh, that's perfect.
No worries. So, do you guys how do you develop your characters? Does it happen as you're writing? Because it sounds like, Jamie, you're a big pantser,
Yeah.
discovery writer. Like, do you do any work on your characters ahead of time, or does it just come out as you're writing? You can take
I
it first.
I definitely do not do any, nope, 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 nope,
I
that's
love
not
this.
me, because
We
I
match
never have.
vibes.
Well, it's visual too, because 'cause I'll be like, "Ooh, I got this kid Pimp the knife. He's got a knife. Oh, no, no, he's got this black hair." And then it just starts folding. I just see this character, and then I write down those notes. And I mean, there'll be little things I add. Like I had a character, and he was always going around saying, instead of a cursing, he was like, "Them bastages." And I don't know why that stuck with me. And I wanted to put that in because somebody at work years ago used to do it. So I'll stick little things in with characters, but it's more mannerisms. It may not be the way they talk, the way they look. That just doesn't unfolds for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do
What
you
about
feel
you,
like
Carissa?
What we're gonna ask? I'm sorry, Rachel. What we're gonna ask you? Because
well, I wanna circle back around on it because I wanna ask you both. So you go first, Krissa, and then I'll come back.
okay, so for character development, for me, I typically envision a persona. Like, do I want them to have I guess I'll write it down, but I'll be like, what kind of conversation do I want them to have? Like, for example, this new book I'm writing, there are 3 angels. Of course, they're not gonna speak as slang as we would, but they've also been around a long time in the human world, so they're not gonna also talk too, um, too professional, I guess you would say, or too ancient. But so I envision how this particular character is, and then I imagine, like, just I don't know, like, for me, it has to be almost realistic. So, would it make sense if this person is blonde in this situation, or make better sense to I have to completely think about what makes sense in the storyline, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
crazy, but I always have to be like, "Okay, how would that fit? Okay, this it would make sense if this person had a limp. I mean, right now, this wouldn't make sense if this person da da, so I have to kind of, like, walk myself through their personalities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like that too. I have to think through, like, everything, like, what beliefs do they have? Like, what do they
Mhm.
want? Like, all of those things. Like, I have to kinda know that even for
Yeah.
my secondary characters in order to, like, have pieces on the board to play.
You have to know how they're gonna react to a situation, because then otherwise it just sounds like the same character all the way through.
Yeah. Mhm.
Are any of you on Zoom right now? See, that's why me and Rachel were lined up, and Emily and
Yeah,
Chris are
exactly.
lined up.
Exactly. Yes. We've got the same. Because what I this was the question I was gonna ask was, um, I'm also a pantser, and I just kinda come up with it, but one thing that's, like, drastically changed my process is in like, the knowledge of craft that I've learned over the years influencing, like, the choices that I make. I'm never gonna be a plotter, but learning about, like, character change helped me decide when I was writing on the fly, "Okay, I need a character to have a flaw, what's it gonna be, and how are they gonna act?" And then that allowed me to make those choices a little bit easier as I was writing and, like, play around and have fun. So my question is, do you feel like learning craft or what have you learned from craft that has kind of impacted the way that you write, if anything? Like, one that made a big difference for me too is, like, learning more about scene structure, and, like, I don't ever plan my scenes. If I do, that's not far in advance, But I know when I'm writing, this character needs to have a goal. So what's it going to be? And there's going to be conflict. So what's it going to be? And that's helped me give structure, like give boundaries around my work. It's still chaos, let's be real, but it's not like, it at least feels a little more purposeful to me. Yeah. So what do you think?
So from my personal experience with trying to develop like these, when you're talking about not plotting, and I'm trying to figure out if I'm answering the question properly,
Yeah.
but I have whatever the plot little twist or the mini twist that's in the storyline, that itself will kind of echo out through my book for me to be like, okay, to get to this point, I can't just throw this at the reader. So I have to start this somewhere in the beginning. And so I
Mhm.
have these little filtered, twists that happen, but I can't make it seem like I just abruptly put it on them. So I have to
Yeah.
think back. So for me, I almost have to feel the vibration of the coin drop into the water
Yeah.
in the
Mhm.
beginning of the book.
Right. And you're aware of that. Like when you sit down to write, you're aware of
Mhm.
like, I know there's this thing that's going to be happening. So I'm
Yeah, and
going
if I no, I'm sorry.
no, I was gonna say, you're like planning those ripples ahead of time.
Right. And if a coin drop happens while I'm maybe in chapter 6 and I'm like, "Oh, this is so much better." I will go back to chapter 1 and 2 and find a way to like briefly put it in there as a snippet or a clue. I always like clues, and usually the clues are always there for my reader. You just got to pick up on them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they're
Yeah.
very subtle. But I always make sure that, and I did that. I was terrible at that in my first book because I had so many unanswered questions that I went back and I was like, okay, I gotta answer these questions. So whenever I wrote that, I asked people, I'm like, what kind of questions do you want answered in book 2? Because I forget
Mm.
what I put in there for you.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. You're doing that in like a pre-publishing stage. Like
Mhm.
what's even in this book anymore? I don't know.
Like, after you read it after you read
Yes.
books so many times, you
Literally.
forget.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know what happens. Whatever. I have to go back and reread it. And like I'm writing the third book in a series right now.
Mhm.
And the big stuff is there. But like I've had to go back to book 1 all the time. What did I even what were their voices like back then? I don't know.
I
Okay.
get it. I just read all 3 sigils, made a bunch of notes, and had told Chris this, but I'm like, "I'm gonna have to reread them before I start." Like, oh my god. For me, I mean, I've learned a lot. Like, in the beginning, I used to buy every book I could find on Amazon about, like, grammar and about, like, fantasy writing and this and that. I read a lot, but I'm like, honestly, for me, I went to school with 2 people, Rich Dalglish. I have to be submersed in it. I can't read it in a book and apply it.
Yeah.
All his edits is like, "Oh, Jamie Lynn Saunders, who was me, this teenager, she doesn't know how to write. She's showing, she's telling, she's not showing." And then, same thing with Daniel Middleton, who used to do some writing with me, who does my interior design. Just little things they would guide me on, and I'm like, and it would stick, and like, okay, and so if I'm learn a little bit at a time, then I pretty much always apply it, setting the scene and developing the characters. Uh, but it took years. I write,
Yeah.
like I said, I've written a lot and didn't really know what I was doing, even though I've written my whole life. But that's everybody's different. Like you said, you've taken courses and you've grown. For me, it's guidance from mentors.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. So you just
Yeah.
kind of, like, collected knowledge that you kind of put into your muscle memory, and now you just, like, apply it
Yeah,
all
I gotta
every
say, even
time.
with Carissa too, because her and I for years have went back and forth, and like I know I have driven her nuts with some of the books she's written. Like, what about this? You need more of this. Like the
The
why
nonfiction one, yeah.
Yeah, the nonfiction. Why did my brain just draw a blank? It's like you need more torsion energy. You need this, you need that. And I'd mention stuff to her. She's like, "Oh, what about this? What about this?" So those are when I have a tight circle, and those are the people. Those 3 are the ones that really have inspired me and keep me on
Mm.
point with writing.
Yeah. I think that's incredible because we talk a lot on our podcast about how um lonely the writing process can sometimes feel if not when you're experiencing it, but on the outside looking in.
Mhm.
And even what I like the topic that I approached you guys with, the individuality of the writing process. Yeah, it's individual, but it's also really collaborative and like really to us community based. Like I would not be the writer that I am without Emily, without my alpha readers, without my writing buddies because yeah, you learn so much from them you learn a lot. Also, like the motivation is a huge part of the writing process for me, knowing that like I have people who are going to encourage me to keep going. So I think that's a big part of this too. And I love that you brought that up. Just how important it is to have other people around you, that circle in the process. It's not just like you sitting down writing. It's a circle of people that are helping you learn.
Yeah, and it takes oh my gosh, I'm stuttering here, but it takes someone you can trust that's going to have your best interest, but at the same time, be honest with you because there are people like, oh, it's great. Which, no offense, my husband's one of those people. It's great, um, but then I need people that are like, well, I need a little bit more here. But then there's that fine line when someone's like way too analytical, and you're like, you know what? I
Yeah.
don't want you in my circle.
Yes. No, legit. Yes,
There's
because you have to have that trust. And as soon as it gets too far, it damages that. And like it becomes a really writing is so deeply personal. It's so vulnerable. You don't want that. We have a whole training in our program called feedback training, where we teach people how to give and receive feedback, how to ask for the feedback that they need, how to tell people that's not the feedback that I want right now. Please do this instead. Because it's like walking on eggshells sometimes. And if you just get hurt, like right the wrong way, then it can really damage your relationship with writing and with that person.
Yeah, especially when they're like your children, but also if you have these alpha readers, and I've had this happen before. I've had some alpha readers in the past, but then they get so involved like it's their book and like,
Yeah.
why didn't you do it the way I mentioned? And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's my story. I'm not writing what you want to hear. You know, if you want to do,
Yeah.
I'm not being mean when I say this, but if that's what you want, then write your own book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Trust is so important. Yeah. So with like process itself, there's so many different parts of this conversation. There's craft, there's showing up, there's planning, plotting, all that. But like what's it look like on a daily basis for each of you? Jamie's like, I don't not
I'm
written
not,
days.
next question. Carissa, you go
uh,
first. I don't have much to
uh-huh.
say.
Yeah, Jamie's answer will be really short. It's not happening. Like
Love it.
his longest writing process is texting me, and it's usually talk to text. So he's
You
not even
know,
writing it.
this is not even an excuse, and because I got so many books to finish. But when I start a book, the problem is I teach so much. That's not the problem. When I start a book, screw everything else. I don't want
Yeah.
to do anything. I don't want to eat. I don't want to talk to student. I don't want to go visit my family. I don't want to go hanging out with my friends. I want to write until it's done. And I could literally write. I don't write big books, but I could write 200 or 300 pages and be done in a couple weeks, and that would be like okay. But then I have to shut everything down. So that is a fear that I have to overcome because I know when I start Sigil, which is soon, I swear to you, Carissa,
Mhm.
it's like an ongoing joke now. That's my worry. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to get up at 3 a.m. because I know I'm gonna want to write for 4 hours every day to finish this thing, and that's the toughest thing for me. I get consumed, like binge watching your favorite show.
Right. Yeah, I think we call
Mm.
that hyper focus.
Yes, and that's not necessarily a good thing. So
Yeah. So you're like bursts of creativity
yeah,
whenever you can. And then but those days you're writing like literally as much as you can those days.
I will not stop. I mean, I'll write for hours and hours. Like I remember writing one book was maybe 125 pages, and it was done in a week. And my partner told me, like, "How in the world?" I'm like, "What's only 125 pages? It ain't that much, What would you do?" But I'm like, I'm writing every day. I'm like, okay, it's going to have 20 chapters. I'm going to write 2 to 4 chapters a day, and I'll be done by this weekend. But that's all I did. My wife
Yeah.
come home. Did you eat today? Huh? What time is it? It's 7. I'm like, oh no. So it's just
And it just like you have the energy to keep doing that. You have the idea amount to like, you have enough to say on
oh
all those
yeah.
days to get it done.
I shouldn't even say this on this podcast. This is gonna get me in a lot of trouble, and I've told Carissa this before. If I could do I love coaching voice, and I love singing. I've been doing it my whole life. I've got to coach some amazing pop and rock stars. But if I could do one thing and one thing only, it would be writing books.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mm.
and that's the one thing. Like, I love teaching, but at the end of the day, like, whew, I'm so tired. I don't get tired when I'm writing. But I can write anywhere. I can write out in the forest. I can write sitting on the couch, in the bed. I don't have to have a writing space. I can write on my iPhone, on an iPad, whatever. And you know what? I told Carissa to go first, and I took over, and I can't shut up. So let's pass it over to Carissa.
Well, I feel like this should be honestly an intervention for Jamie. There should be a complete episode for just getting him to take the time to finish a book
If
because
you three ladies start group texting
I
me,
was
make
gonna
it
say,
happen.
plot twist. This was a setup, Jamie.
Mhm. Yep.
Wait a minute. I don't
Yes,
have a
because
problem.
this is the thing. If Jamie gets free time, Jamie doesn't use his free time in a way that is valuable to Jamie. He uses his free time that is like for someone else. And this is a problem, and I have to deal with this problem.
And there's
Well,
not
I'm
much
so
I need to do.
curious. I'm so curious, Jamie, because you've said like this is the kind of thing I'll often hear from someone who's never finished a book, right? Like, oh, I don't have enough time, or I need to have more time, or whatever. But you've clearly finished many, many books before. So like,
Like
what?
40 or
How have
40 to
you?
60 books.
That's so many books. So like,
Yeah.
Yes.
obviously you've gotten through this wall before. So like, what? I'm so curious, like, what's worked for you before?
Well, I had more time before. I mean, I've been a coach for
Mm.
30 years, but it's to the point where it's ridiculous, but not ridiculous. Like even I talked to Chris last year, and I worked in a way to narrow it down to just 3 days instead of 5. It's not even hard. I'm up at 5. Instead of sitting there going, oh, I'm so tired. All I got to do is open up pseudo write and work, work on whatever, and I'd be done. So I
That's all
always
you
have an
gotta
excuse.
do.
I'm finishing my taxes, and then I'm starting on them. I'm finishing this week. So,
Mhm.
and
Okay,
I'm on it.
you all have witnessed this. We'll see.
Taxes are a
It's
great
recorded.
scapegoat.
Like, ladies, group text me Monday, and I'll be like, I'll do the easy thing. I threw those first 3 books in the pseudo right, so they can map out my characters and all that.
Oh
Be
my
like,
gosh.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
all right.
I don't even remember the original question. What was the original question?
What's your writing process look like on the daily?
Oh gosh. So
10 minutes later.
yeah, right. My writing process has significantly evolved. But like for me, I guess for me, I can if I had the time, same as Jamie, to write all day, I probably would, but I'm a functioning ADHDer. So for me, I could write a few chapters, or not chapters, a few paragraphs, and then think the next process through, go fold a load of laundry. Write a little bit more, oh, go put the dishes away. Oh, this or that. If I was home all the time, I could probably finish something, but I'm not. I have to go. I have clients. I have these things.
You're a
So
parent too.
I can think of things while I'm with a client, like, oh yeah, I'm doing their lashes, and I'm like, oh yes, so Alice should do this, and then da 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 da. Like it's in my head all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's just for me. My writing process is from brain to page, so I'm always envisioning it. I just have to find the time to get it onto the page.
Yeah. I like to call that marinating. I'm
Mm.
always like, I'm marinating an idea, or I'm slow cooking it,
Mhm.
and then it'll come out.
Yeah, I can't do that.
You're fast. You're
It's
pressure
all
cooking.
or nothing. That I will say that about Krista because, for one, she's my most favorite tattoo artist ever. She's done
Love
quite a few amazing pieces on me, and then doing the hair and extensions and this and that, and handling all the girls and the volleyball and all. I mean, she's crazy busy all the time. So she's not. I'm not any more busier than she is, and still she makes time. But maybe I either need Adderall or learn how to marinate. It's one or the other.
Oh my gosh.
I make use of my downtime. Let's put it that way.
Well, what is that? So for me, the timing of the day makes a big difference. And like usually it's after I put my daughter to bed from like 9:30 to like 11. So I'm like, I'm going to write. That sounds great to me. I'm a night owl. I love
Mhm.
writing at night, but that's what I can find.
Well, this is
Usually
where I like
time.
Emily better than you. Because
Wow.
Wow.
now Carissa's on your side. I can't write late at night. It's in the mornings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
But
did
like,
we did an episode on that where we talked about, late owls and, early birds. And for me, my very first 2 novels, my first book I did in 9 months, like bam, every night writing, every second writing that I possibly could. But I had, 3 babies under the age of 4, And so I was up all the time. I didn't
Yeah.
have sleep was not something I had, so I used my lack of sleep to just create. And so those first 2 books were a lot easier to come out of me. I got the first one 9 months, second one 11 months. This one's taking years because I'm so much more busy because when I put my kids down, I don't know, it's like it's now that I'm in this space, it's like I'm decompressing, so I'm more creative at night for the most part, but at the same time, I have sprinkles through the daytime where I'm like, "You know what?" Like, right before we were getting on this and I didn't realize it was, like, you know, a minute past, I'm like, "Oh, crap, I gotta go over here." I was writing like 2 or 3 paragraphs.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
random.
but she can do this really cool trick, and it blows my mind. She can play video games and then write too, and I don't
I love that.
understand that.
Yeah, I do that at night, like, I will play, video games and write in between, like, while I'm
Now
playing.
now we're besties because
I
I will
can't.
do that too, and I'll
Mm-mm.
also, like, write with, like, a TV show on or something. Like, I just did a writing retreat with one of my really close writing buddies, and we watched all of the Twilight movies, 2 seasons of The Crown, and all of Chernobyl, and
Mhm.
meanwhile,
That
just we're,
breaks
like,
my brain.
writing 3,000 words a
Yeah,
day, and we're, like, chatting, like, "Oh my god, can you believe that?" Or like, "Oh, Edward, you're so dramatic." Like,
Right?
dang. One of my personalities is Team Emily, and the other is Team Rachel. I can't figure it
we
out.
contain multitudes.
Gosh, I cannot multitask to save my life. Mm,
Not
I know,
me
that's
either.
what feeds my ADHD is, like,
no.
if I don't, I just get bored, and then that's when I pick up my phone.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's why it's functioning ADHD because I can multitask and not feel and some people are like, "Oh, you cannot multitask and be productive." I'm like, "Oh, but I can.
Yeah.
I
Like,
absolutely
yeah,
can."
I can.
And sometimes fit a 20-minute nap in there too at the same time.
Exactly, yeah. I'm just
As you're writing.
I can't.
as
I
you're
tried to
writing.
multitask
Yeah.
this weekend and I burned 3 things in the stove, 3 different things.
Yeah,
Just
that's
so
not for
everybody
you,
knows.
Emily.
The last one, I was just, like, so angry. We were going to a birthday party, and I was like, I hate myself. I was like, I'm so angry at myself. I was like, my
First the
brain
paperback,
can't do
second
it.
batch of that, yeah.
All I'm trying to do is get my daughter out the door and not burn the
Uh,
muffins, and I can't do
That's
it.
hilarious.
I love that.
No.
So you're, like, not writing and cooking at the same time?
I will.
Me?
I will
No.
too. I'll have my
Yeah.
laptop up while I'm,
Mhm.
like, stirring something and, like
That sounds so efficient, but
I
I
don't
can't
know
do
if
it.
that's the word I use, but I guess it gets things done.
Like,
Maybe a
I'm
little.
really in the mood to write, so guess what?
Yeah.
You're getting, crock pot foods today.
Exactly. Just put it in. But Krista, when you're doing this, like, snagging little time throughout the day, which I think is a really effective way to make progress over time. I think people feel like this was one of the beliefs that I held when I first started writing, that I had to sit down and I had to have like a certain amount of time to get into it to like write anything good. And so
Yeah.
I used to be like, nope, I can't. That's kind of how my after work writing started. And now I've realized that actually just works for my body. So I like writing at night. But I used to think you needed to have like dedicated amount of time. And once I became a parent, that was impossible. So then I was like, I need to write whenever I have time.
Well,
But
do you think that sometimes that's a mental thing that was given to us when we watch movies where there's writers or authors in the movie? Like, yeah, I went to this retreat in like New Hampshire so I could finish my book.
yeah.
And you're feeling, and then like they have this room that overlooks the bay and like, in Nantucket or something like that. And you're like,
Yes.
wow, that's amazing. And these private times and like they sit down and just write. I'm like, that's what an author is. That's what my brain thinks an author's supposed to be. No, that's not who we are at
Exactly.
all.
It's all very aesthetic, the projected version of being an author is all
Mhm.
very aesthetic. And like
Mhm.
most writers have other jobs. A lot of I won't say most. I'll say a lot of writers as they're writing have other things to do. They have other responsibilities. They have other, it's not just let me sit down in front of my picturesque view of the bay and get my words done
or I
with
mean, have
my
your lying
coffee.
on a bed, have your feet tied up in the movie Misery. I mean, it's not the way it is.
Right, it's not.
Finish this
So
book.
do you
Yeah.
use, do you guys use, different tools to do this? 'Cause I know, Jamie, you said you write on your phone. Sometimes that's more or less effective for me. So, I use Scrivener, and sometimes I'll take notes, but, what are we doing to get these words down in these kind of random
Uh,
snippets in the
I
day?
mean, the one thing that helped me, and this is from another friend of mine, Jeff Rivera, who we've interviewed. I remember years ago, he's like, "Oh," because I remember they had Dragon Naturally Speaking, which was really clunky, and it would do voice to text. And
Oh,
he's like,
yeah.
"No," he said, "You can. They have a microphone on your Google. You can do that." And this is what 10 years ago. And as soon as I was able to do that, I do. I guess I don't want to lie to you, ladies. I do have spurts if I'm in a car. In the
Mhm.
past, I'm like, "Oh, oh, oh," and then I would do text to speech. So,
Yeah.
and I still do that. I'm not really good at it, as Chris will tell you.
Got
He's one
better.
Yeah,
He's either got better at it or AI's got smarter about it.
must be
Growth.
AI because I haven't gotten better. But that's the only thing that's helped me. That's the only tool, but I've written complete books with my thumbs on my iPhone, or I have an iPad with a magic keyboard that I use, and of course, I used to use laptops. So
Yeah, just kinda anything. What about you, Carissa?
Again, what's the question again? Like, sometimes
Yeah.
I feel like I'm losing the question. I'm just like, in the
Like
moment, I'm like, "Wait, what were we talking about?"
tools you're using to, like, write throughout the day. If you have, like, these
Oh,
little
yeah,
snippets, are you
stone
on your computer?
tablets.
Are you doing something else to I mean, a lot writing can happen on the go, so, like,
right.
what's that version? What's your
So
on the
for
go?
me so for me, if I'm on a walk by myself, and obviously it'd be really weird if I was someone else and doing this, but I will open my notes app and I will title it whatever chapter I'm thinking, and I'll just talk to it, and I'll be like, "Okay, don't forget to do this." I'll just normally have a conversation, and like I told Jamie, this is so weird, when I do this, I do it always in a British accent.
Oh, really?
I don't know why I do that. So if I'm talking
Love
out
that.
loud as if I'm talking to myself, I don't do it in my regular voice. It's always British. I'm like, I feel like that's
Ooh, give
less
us an
insane.
example. Is it?
But so I'm like, I told Jamie, I said, when I do that, it's always in a British accent. But then if
Yeah, it
I'm
is kinda weird.
Awesome. That's awesome, though.
yeah, I know. It's
It's
fine.
probably a way to, like, dissociate the story
Yeah.
from your identity, like,
Yeah, I'm just well, and it
externalize
feels
it
weird because
somehow.
talking yeah, yeah. But either
I
way, so that's what I'm doing if I'm walking. But if I am, like, in a stationary position where I'm, like, waiting on a kid to get out of something and I have, like, 30 minutes or so or less, I can go onto my writing app on my phone, like, you can go to Sudowrite. I use a lot of Sudowrite to hold my stuff, and then I save it in other stuff. But I will go into my chapters, and I will just kinda see where I left off if I'm feeling it, and I'll go in there and do that kinda stuff. So it just whenever it hits me, if I have a moment to stop, I will do it. If I don't, I just try to hold on to it and make a quick note to myself somewhere.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're taking that marinating and just processing it
Because
into
I'll forget
another
that I
yeah.
marinated and I'll burn it like Emily.
Yeah. Burn the idea.
Burn!
Yeah, the Emily will or yeah, the
Bad.
Emily idea will burn, and then I won't have it. I'll be like, "Oh, dang it. It's gone."
Toss that one out. Lost it. Start
Yes.
over.
Yes.
I love that. So, expectations, though, it sounds like as you have grown and changed over the years and written more books, you've kind of adjusted to, what you this vision we're talking about of like what we thought a writer was and like
Mhm.
what a writer actually is. You have different expectations for yourself than you
Yeah.
did maybe when you started.
Yeah, volume versus quality of work.
Ah, okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's why
before I
I'm
was like,
so
"Oh, I
slow.
wrote" what is it?
That's why I'm so slow. I prefer quality of work over volume.
Indeed. Yes.
Abstain.
Yeah, we're gonna go with that one. No, feel like I've learned, to in the beginning, it's like, it's almost fairy tale like when you're like, "Oh, I wrote a novel." Like, you wanna hit that, like, large novel. That was kind of like a brick wall that Jamie and I faced was whenever I first met Jamie and he wanted to take my book, he wanted to break it apart, and I'm like, "No, no, no, we're not breaking it apart. We're not
Yeah,
doing that."
that was my
I
mentality.
didn't I didn't I didn't write 425 pages for nothing. We're not doing that.
But
So
in my
we s
defense, it was like thinking she could have more books and make more money, and we could do one 6 months apart. But that's where I was. I was writing shorter books. Reading her book, yeah, thinking
you can't
now, it's
break
like,
it apart.
you can't break it apart. Yeah.
Right, so that was
I get
more
so
of, like, that volume. I wanted that novel and then the series. It was like um, words that were just kinda playing in my mind that I was attracted to complete.
Mhm.
But now it's like it's not that I wasn't trying to write quality because I had a vision in my head of the books. Now I've surpassed that and I'm more gained the experience of not only the editing and like that, but shifting my pursuit more to like a more perfect book and taking the time to value it versus just creating that volume in a certain, time frame. And, not getting too frustrated as a writer at the same time, still being able to like keep the creative juices going.
Yeah. So I'm sounds like when you say, you're trying to make a more perfect book, it sounds like you're in a spot now where you've learned a lot over the years and you're consciously putting that into like your efforts as you're writing so that it feels tighter, it feels stronger, and it feels like, this is a reflection of your growth. Is that right?
Yes, I would agree with that statement.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like that was just like I was on the witness stand or something. Yes, that's accurate.
Indeed. Let the record show.
Let the record show.
Love it. Love it. I mean, that's like a really important part of this too. Do you feel like that's become easier? Because I definitely feel like for me, as I've written more, not that writing becomes easier because it doesn't, which is
No.
weird. But like the more you learn, the process maybe is a little more knowable, a little easier, at least in like what you can expect of this stage. You're not forging forward into the unknown. You like know what you're doing a little bit. And so there is a difference in, easy is not the right word, but like, you know what I mean? Like there's a comfort in that, knowing that like I've been through this before and I can do it again.
Yeah, I've seen this movie before. For
Yeah.
me, personally, I wish I could somehow get with my old self and my new self together and somehow write a little bit more flowy and not be such a perfectionist about it. Because sometimes I will stare at a conversation and I'm like, this, I could just move on, but it's like I can't mentally move past it unless I figure out what the words are. Now, with that said, recently, Jamie and I use Sudowrite, in which we've interviewed the engineer on Sudowrite who works with the AI in the back end. Now, you don't have AI write it for you. I mean, there's options to help you reword or whatever. But what I use it for is and this is a new thing, and I love this. I love it for its organization, first of all. But for me, I love that I can write an entire chapter. And I just did this just as a new thing. Write the chapter, and then it will actually analyze your chapter and say, okay, these are the awesome parts. These are the parts that are boring. These are the parts that are confusing. And this is the part that's unbelievable. Like, no one's going to believe this. I'm like, oh, it literally is like that person you're looking for to give you constructive criticism, but a little bit of positivity at the same time.
Yeah.
And then I go back in, I'm like, oh, it's so right. So you have to personally go back and look at it and be like, okay, I'm going to change this around. So it's actually something that has helped my writing process go faster. So I just write it down how I want to go. Makes my writing go faster, like I said. But then when I hit that, it tells me where I need to work on stuff. And I'm like, okay, now I can go back and kind of fine tune that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So you're making those changes as it's giving you that feedback before you move forward, or you're just like, okay, I'm aware of that. I'm going to come back to it.
No,
later?
I have to do it in the moment because it's fresh in my mind. So I will write the chapter, and this has made it, like I said, more efficient.
Yeah.
I'll write the chapter, and I'll just hit the little plugin that it's like a deep seek, so it'll literally go in there and read your stuff and say what seems confusing. For example, I had the first chapter I was working on, and the character was in her head, an inner monologue. And the inner monologue is italicized, and then the person that's in the thing is conversation normal, but it was saying the inner monologue is great. It was telling me how awesome that was, but what the thing is not believable is why she went from this point to this point with this character. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's true. I probably should have made a little bit more of a movement there between how she jumped to that thought process.
Yeah.
This is like the non-biased ultimate alpha reader. So for those of you watching thinking, oh, AI, she's using AI. No, you could pass your novel off to somebody else and they could give you the same constructive feedback.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
keep that
In
in
longer
mind.
time.
Yep.
Yeah. So you mentioned though, and we're getting to the top of our time, so we can start wrapping up here. But you mentioned though, Krista, that you would love to find like the balance between the old version of you that was so flowy and free and the new version of you that's like learned a lot and is trying to apply that learning and like write a really tight book. And I think we all kind of wrestle with those different pieces of ourselves, those different parts of ourselves as we learn and as we grow. So imagine that you're talking to like you I don't know, 10 years ago, or a newer writer who's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to make a writing process. Like, what would you tell them for try to walk this balance, or like,
Mhm.
here's the main thing I learned and I'm still working on it, or like what would be kind of your lesson or takeaway for like process in general in growing, in changing, in trying to find this medium?
So for my personal advice would be not to step away. Even if you're
Mm,
staring at that one little line, you're still in the book. So I feel like when
Mm,
you walk away, you have to start all over. So stay in the book, whether the flow, because the flow may come. The flow may be there and,
yeah,
oh, I've got 5 paragraphs. I just did this. Great. Or I may only get one sentence. So we've talked about this
mm,
in our podcast. Just write something every day, or at least look at it every day.
yeah,
So
like
I
staying
think that would
anchored.
be my advice. It would be every day, at least look at it. Look at your work or think about your work every day. Take time for that.
mm.
So
Yeah,
that would be my advice.
love it.
Love that.
Jamie, what about you?
And it may not work for everybody. I should take my own advice,
Or yourself.
but yes, that's
Yeah.
Mhm.
but just write every day. Quit. What I see with beginning authors, like I'm never going to finish this book, and I don't remember how we came up with the word flowetry, Carissa, but
Flowetry.
Yeah, it's one of
yes,
our words that we have a
Love that.
dictionary of words we create and make up on our
Yeah,
podcast, and
I
flowetry is
love
one of
that.
them.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
and
That's so
so, but
fun.
in the beginning, don't. So many people get stuck in that paragraph or sentence. They try to write this perfect, elaborate, elegant sentence. Everything's perfect. It's like poetry, and you got to kind of meet in the middle and let it flow. Um, and don't worry about the typos. So again, this may not work for everybody, but my process was, and this was always my process with fiction. I would write a bunch of stuff, and when I felt like okay, I'm done, I need to go do whatever. Then when I hop back in the next day, I always had 2 parts. I would reread what I did so I could clean up the typos. I didn't even want to think about them, and then it got my juices flowing, and then I started writing again. So it's
Mhm,
always check for typos from yesterday, write the new part today. Typos, write the new part, back and forth. And you know what? You may have to play around. It may be like Emily and I may be early morning. It may be right after school. It may be late in the evening.
But
And
not when the
you,
muffins are in the oven.
well,
Yes.
yeah,
Hard pass.
yes, you don't wanna burn it, but finding you gotta find that sweet spot that works for you. It's not the same for everybody else. Find what works for you, and who cares if it's weird? It could be like, I go down and I'm riding in the restroom down in the basements, and the cat's coming in here, but at least but, whatever works, just find it, and just like Krista said, consistency, you gotta do this. So,
Yeah,
don't give up, stay in it.
love that. Experiment, but keep doing it. Keep trying.
Keep moving forward, stay in it, love it.
Just keep swimming.
Just keep
Well,
swimming.
to send us off here, tell us again how our listeners can find you and the podcast, the Always Right podcast.
So the Always Right podcast, you can go to alwaysrightpodcast.com, which that is ALL ways oh my gosh, I'm a terrible speller. That's why I have an editor. WAYS WRITE alwaysrightpodcast.com. Or you can go to alwaysrightpodcast@gmail.com and send us an email. And we're on all the fancy schmancy podcasting outlets, and we also have a YouTube channel.
Love that. Yeah, because you guys do like the video recordings too, which is
Yes.
pretty cool.
Yeah, so you
Yes.
can see my
Yeah.
goofy faces I make. It's
It's worth it.
very
It's worth
entertaining.
the watch.
Goofy faces and all our hand
Yep.
gestures.
Yes.
What about your books? Where can people find your books?
Amazon. You can just Google our author names, author
Yeah.
Carissa DeLay,
Author
author Jamie Vendera, and we're on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble online.
Yeah, you can head to Vendera Publishing if you wanna break down because we handle several other authors as well.
Mhm.
All right. We will put links for all of those things in the show notes so you can swipe up and tap away and go check them out. Thank you both so much for coming on. This was such a
This was
fun
awesome.
conversation.
That's been great.
Yes, thank you.
Love it.
Awesome. If you want to build a successful, fulfilling, and sustainable writing life that works for you, you've got to get on our email list.
Sign up now to get our free email course, The Magic of Character Arcs. After 7 days of email magic, you'll have the power to keep your readers flipping pages all through the night.
Link in the show notes. We'll see you there. Thank you so much.